Well, welcome back to Gospel First. Today we're closing our week with Matthew chapter 17 and Mark 9. Now, have you ever heard a mountaintop spiritual moment and then immediately walked back into real life and it felt like the air got heavy again? Matthew chapter 17 is that exact rhythm. Glory on the mountain, struggle in the valley, and Jesus is steady in both places. So let's get started. So now we're back on the Mount of Transfiguration, where Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up a mountain. Matthew says Jesus was transfigured, his face shining, his clothes bright. That's in verses 2 of chapter 17 in Matthew. Moses and Elijah appear in verse 3. The disciples are overwhelmed. Then the Father speaks, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." That's in Matthew chapter 17, verse 5. That last phrase is so practical. Listen to him. Not just admire him, not just study him, not just quote him, but listen to him. And when the disciples are afraid, Jesus comes close, touches them, and says, "Get up. Don't be afraid." That's in verse 7 of Matthew chapter 17. That is not distant divinity. That is presence. Then they come down the mountain and immediately meet a desperate father with a suffering son. The disciples could not help. Jesus does, and afterward they ask why they failed. And Jesus answers in Matthew chapter 17, verse 20. "Because you have so little faith, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you." Then he adds a sobering line that some manuscripts reflect it in this moment, and Mark emphasizes it strongly. Certain battles require prayer, and Mark adds fasting in many translations. That's in Mark chapter 9, verse 29. Now, here's the insight. Sometimes the issue is not that God does not care. Sometimes the issue is that the struggle is deeper than quick fixes. Jesus is teaching endurance, not shame. Next, we see the little story is easy to miss. A tax question comes up. Jesus makes a point about freedom, then chooses not to cause unnecessary offense. In verse 27, he tells Peter to catch a fish, and inside is the coin that was needed. Now, here's what hits me. Peter could not produce what was required, but Jesus provides it anyway. It's quietly, specifically, personally. Now, have you ever felt like, I don't have enough strength, enough patience, enough faith, enough steadiness? This story whispers, Jesus can supply what you cannot manufacture. Next, we see that Mark gives us another father, another son, and another moment of need. In Mark chapter 9, verse 23, Jesus says, "Everything is possible for one who believes." And the father replies with one of the most honest prayers in the Bible. In verse 24, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." That is not fake faith. That is living faith. It is faith that shows up with what it has and asks Jesus for what it lacks. And Jesus heals, and then he does something tender. He lifts the boy up in Mark chapter 9, verse 27. The miracle is not only removal of the burden, it is the restoration to life. So here's a final story that can maybe describe this. I think many of us live inside Mark chapter 9, verse 24, more than what we want to admit. So picture someone who has prayed for years for a child who's struggling, or a marriage under strain, or a private habit they hate, or anxiety that keeps returning. They believe in Jesus, but they are tired. They come to church, they try to do the right thing, but they feel like their faith has cracks. This father shows us we do not have to pretend with Jesus. We can say, "I believe," and also say, "I'm scared, I'm weak, I'm not there yet." And Jesus does not reject that prayer. He meets it, he answers it, and he lifts. So here's my invitation to reflect on for the end of this week. Ask the identity question personally. Jesus, who are you to me right now? Then watch your words as a heart check. What is coming out of me lately? Pray the honest prayer. I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. Listen to him, not just once, but daily. Maybe write that last one somewhere you will see it. Listen to him. So let me close this week with this picture of grace that I hope that stays with you. Imagine you're standing at the end of the long day, holding two things at once: love for Jesus and the awareness of your weaknesses. You are carrying faith, but it feels small. You are carrying desire, but it feels incomplete. And Jesus does not stand far away with crossed arms. In these chapters, he keeps moving toward people like that, toward the woman who will not quit, toward the disciples who do not get it yet, and toward the father who prays with tears, toward the child who cannot lift himself. Christ's grace is not just forgiveness after failure, it is strength in the middle of need. It is the hand that reaches down and lifts you when you cannot stand up on your own. So if all you can offer this week is a whispered prayer, offer it. If all you can say is, Lord, help me, say it. Because the living Son of the living God still answers, still heals, still provides, and still lifts. Well, that's it for another week. Thank you for staying faithful to the journey. May the Spirit continue to fill your heart and draw you closer to Jesus Christ. If your heart feels even a gentle nudge, I invite you to subscribe and share so that we can spread the gospel of Jesus Christ together. And I'll see you next time as we continue in Matthew chapter 18 and Luke 10, where we're going to talk about who is the greatest. Until next time, God bless.